Hey folks, this is the A Ton of Open Studio weekly show. Still waiting on some reliable internet to get back to that live stream. But if you are just tuning in on Saturdays, I'm going to take a look at everything that people send me through the week, do a little feedback, and post that weekly. So, yeah, feel free to send stuff to atonuvrecords@gmail.com. That's in the description, and I'll do what I'm about to do right here. There's also a Patreon if you wanna, help keep this thing going. I'm having a great time, so we'll be doing this for a while. I mentioned in a comment that today I'm just going to talk about room treatment because it's super important and it doesn't have to be a huge hassle or a huge amount of money. So let's just get that, uh, you know, let's get that dialed in right now. So uh, I'm gonna go through it a little bit quickly. So I'm gonna try to slow down a little bit. Um, Getting your room to sound its absolute best is very important for mixing because if you don't have a reliable baseline of you know if you've got frequency buildups in your room, it means you can't trust your monitors. And being able to trust our ears is the single most important thing to get a great sounding room. And what we got to do is address a few things kind of in order. So, first things first, what you're going to want to do is get your monitor set up correctly. So, what you need to do is measure from the front of your room to the back of your room. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take 33.3% of the way back from your front wall. That's where your head should be. And then you're going to base everything off of where your head is in that optimal mix position. Now, 33.3% of the way back from the front wall, that's going to minimize the amount, like how affected by the room mode your listening position is. So that's where you get like huge spikes and huge dips in like where you're going to really see them is somewhere between 100 and 200 hertz. And those will destroy your mixes because if you don't know what's happening accurately from 100 to 200 hertz, then you're either going to be making mixes that are too bassy or not bassy enough. And that's just going to really, really, really mess you up. So that's first things first. Like get 33.3% of the way back from the front wall. You'll save yourself a bunch of problems. Now, after you find where your head goes, then you're going to find where your speakers go. So what you're going to do is you want to have an equilateral triangle. So if the speakers are 4 feet apart from each other, then they need to be 4 feet back from your head. Okay, so 4 feet, 4 feet, 4 feet. All right, equilateral triangle. And you're going to have to play with moving your speakers around to find like where the like ergonomically where they're going to be best. What I've found, I've set up quite a few rooms at this point, and if you're using like Yamaha HS8s or 5s or the JBL stuff, like all the way up to like the Genelecs like I'm using, these are near field monitors, so they're built to be like close to you and close to each other, hence near field. There are midfield and far field, but you can check what you're using, but it's like a 90% chance that you have near field monitors. So it's going to be closer to you. They're going to be closer to you and closer to each other than you would think. Like 9 times out of 10, to get the absolute flattest frequency response, they're going to be kind of close to you. And it's going to be surprising sometimes. You're like, is this good? And then if you measure it, you'll be like, oh, yeah, it's good. So, like, rule of thumb for sure, they're probably going to be closer to you and to each other than you would imagine. Now, so first things first, 33.3% of the way back, positioning your speakers in an equilateral triangle. Now, here's where we get into where we're going to spend money. My first recommendation, and this is a pretty firm recommendation, would be to get SonarWorks. It's not terribly expensive, and if you're a student, they offer a really, really generous student discount, like 50% of the way off. And you're going to want to get the one with the reference mic. Otherwise, it's questionably good. So, SonarWorks is really cool because it takes measurements from all over your room and then shows you what your frequency response is, and then it does room correction, which is helpful after you have everything dialed in. But what I would do as far as order of operations is get your listening position, get your speaker set up, then SonarWorks, because you're going to want to measure your room so that you can, move forward with some information and some knowledge. So get a room measurement, and it's going to tell you what your room is doing. And you can send, if you ever have a room measurement, you can send it to me and I'll kind of tell you what's going on. Because after doing it a bunch, you go like, oh yeah, that's why that bump is there, and then we can smooth it out. And then if you have the reference mic too, you can use it with like Room EQ Wizard, and then you can get into like really, really nitty gritty stuff like delay, waterfall patterns and stuff, and like how long sound is sticking around in your room. But first things first, you got to get a flat frequency response. So after you've got your speaker set up and you've got your room measured, the next thing you're going to want to do is set up a reflection-free zone. And this is first and foremost the best way to start. And it's gonna get you the most bang for your buck as far as fixing your room. And that's the thing too. This is a multi-step process. Like, you don't have to do all of this right away. Like if you get to this point, building a reflection-free zone, you're gonna be able to start trusting your mixes more. Like, absolutely, your room's gonna be 80% better. So, reflection-free zone is between your monitors and your ears. Pretty easy to build because you could just get, you can always build your own panels by getting like, wood framing, and then like a rock wool insulation, and then wrap it in breathable fabric. So like a fabric that you can put over your mouth and breathe through. And you just have to place those panels between your monitors and your head. Done. Super easy. Like, just from the monitor to your head. Done. Reflection-free zone. You can also, like, don't mess with the, like, foam, like Oralex or, like, egg cartons or like, squishy foam. You're not going to get anything out of that. Like, you can use it Um, that squishy foam stuff, you can like kill a flutter echo with it, but that's like all it's good for. So you're gonna want to either build your own, or as far as like a budget option, the Prima Acoustic room kits. I even have like a panel of theirs just laying on the ground. Um, like this stuff. This will work. And they make like long panels. And they are reasonably priced if you don't want to mess around with like building something, which is fine. Uh, and that's easy. Reflection free zone. So after you get your reflection free zone, then you're going to worry about base trapping, which once again you can build it your own. You can build your own. Look up the super chunk method. I mean, it's basically just like putting chunks of insulation against your corners, and it's very easy and very effective. So if you're looking to do it on a really tight budget, super chunk base traps are pretty good. And you're going to want to base trap the front corners. So, like looking forward, that's where you want to base trap first. And base accumulates in corners where you know, two surfaces meet. So, if you've got a corner, you're going to want to base trap it. Most importantly, your front corners. Eventually, if you're still having problems, then you're going to want to like trap every single 90-degree angle in your room. And it's really, that's a room to room thing. That's why you want to be able to measure your room, because sometimes in a room, you're going to be able to get a nice response. Like, it's a combination of how your room is shaped with like what monitors you're using, and the effectiveness of those first traps. And sometimes you get away with just like throwing a couple of traps in the front wall, and then you've got a flat response and you're done. Sometimes you need to treat every single surface of your room, but start there. So position your speakers, reflection free zone, base traps in front of you. And then after you get those first base traps, you're going to want to look at getting a cloud above your head, kind of in the same, it matches up with your reflection free zone. And that's going to be the next thing. And then after that, it's like trapping your back wall, trapping the like side corners and the lower corners. And sometimes you don't need to do that. Uh, yeah. So that's it. So that's room treatment in a nutshell. And absolutely do yourself the favor and treat your room. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead. I've got 2 tracks today. So we got something from Tyler and something from David. I'm going to go ahead and pull up Tyler's track. Let's see what's going on.
The surface of the Earth is the shore of the cosmic ocean. On this shore, we've learned most of what we know. Recently, we because the cosmos is also within us. We're made of star stuff. We are a way for the cosmos to know itself.
Dang, that's really good. So great recording. The vocal production, top notch. Great vocal mix. Like the harmonies and the background and stuff. Excellent mic technique. It sounds really good. Track sounds really good. When something is this good as far as like performances, recording, technique, general mix, then it presents new challenges of like, how do we get it better? Because sometimes like having something this good, it can mask like some issues, and there are some things that I would like to see happen. So first off, just building this from the ground up, excellent low end control, really nice definition between kick and bass. I love it. Really good. I think that the kick could get a little bump at like 60 or 50, maybe even 40. It could thump a little bit harder. Like, it depends on, because as it stands, it's in a really nice place for like a classic thing, because it has like this nice clean 60s Beach Boys production happening. It would be interesting to just push that kick a little bit harder so that it feels a little more modern. Like kind of cut the difference. Like, don't make it like a big like thumping oons techno kick, but just a little bit of love down low on the kick might be appropriate. Bass is great, from 100 to 200. Really love that. Mid-range, and this is where it gets into like, some stuff can move around. It's really nice. It's really clean. Everything has great definition, but we are verging on crowded in the mids. So specifically from 500 to 1K, like that octave, we're kind of, because we have all of these vocal harmonies and everything, and you've kind of crammed all of that info from 500 to 1K, and you've kind of neglected like 2K to 4K. So what I would do, I think you're going to get a whole lot out of this, is just spread stuff out. Take some of that info that's living in the 500 to 1K and bump it into like 1.5, 2K, 3K, 4K. And we can kind of see this. So it's like 1K to 4K. Like, we're nice and warm at 500 to 1K. And for, like these strings come in, like they could have like this like 1 to 4K love, because right now they're getting crammed into that same 500 to 1K. Like, it could open up the mix right there. Also 1K to 4K, that's like where the presence is, and the mix is going to feel more present, more in your face, etc., etc. If we just get more info from 1K to 4K, all right? So as far as like a classic sound, like having our info centered in that really crucial 500 to 1K, totally cool, but I think that we need to bump up like that region. So like let's just, for fun, and this would be much better done in the mix, but if I just like added definition in that region, let's use the pull tech. All right, so, this is very, very rough stuff, but I'm just adding like quite a bit at 2K, which like I wouldn't do in the master like ever, like this much 2K. But the fact that I can add this much and it doesn't sound bad, it means that it could get distributed more in the mix. And then I am just adding some 60 and like a little bit of presence at 12K. And like we can hear when I click this, off, we like really miss it. So here is, as is. Pop it in. It all opens up. And take it away.
Some part of our being knows this is where we came from.
Let's go back to the meat of it. Back in. Take it away. All right, so spread stuff out. Everything is centered from 500 to 1K. Skloop it up into the upper mids. And then killer mix. Like, I really wouldn't change anything beyond that. This is awesome. Excellent work. Great attention to detail. I love this. Awesome job. All right, let's take a look at David's track. I was muted. I was watching one of these to check some stuff and realized that sometimes I listen to your tracks and I just look deeply grumpy. So try not to do that listening grump face as much. But I assure you, I'm enjoying all of this. All right. Sounds great. I checked my notes of what you sent. So this is a rough mix. So incredible job. It's very really good. This is a great rough mix. So uh, I don't want to be overly prescriptive if this is still in the rough stage. So I'm just going to give a couple of things to look out for. Um, Kick is sitting really nicely, kick and bass. So I wouldn't mess with that too much. Just be very aware that they're in a good place right now. So be be ready to stick with it. So that's great. The snare could use more at 200 to get a little bit punchier, just a little bit. And then your lead line could probably get pushed at 500. You've got a hole there, and it would be perfectly taken by your lead line. So a little bit of love at 500, and then you've got room at like 4K to maybe add like some excitement to the mix. But as this stands, it's really good. I really like it. Love the composition. Love the rough mix. Sounds very close to a finished mix as is. I mean, I'm excited to see where you take this because it sounds great. That's what I'm hearing. So, yeah, don't want to get too in the weeds if you're still working on this. So, yeah, just a few things to keep in mind. Like snare could probably be punchier. Add some 200. You could warm up the mids, so like dump some 500 in your lead. And there's generally room in the upper mids, like around 4K, to spice up the mix. And that's it. This sounds really good. Once again, great like composition with the dynamic changes from section to section, good risers, good fallen, good bass drops, exciting music. Really love what you do. So yeah, keep me updated on what happens with this because I'm stoked on it. All right, folks. So that's what I've got today. Feel free to drop stuff into my email absolutely anytime. Be doing this every Saturday for the next little bit. Yeah, awesome. I'll see y'all next time. Have a good one.